Jefferson and the Republicans felt that Hamilton and the Federalists were trying to use the implied powers of the Constitution to place unlimited power in the federal government. And the best example of that was the national bank. A national bank is not in the Constitution. And so Jefferson, the strict constructionist, would say you can't do it. Hamilton, the loose constructionist, would say if it's not forbidden, you can do it under the implied powers of the Constitution. So that would be an example of how Hamilton was trying to administer the Constitution into something more powerful than the people ratified in 1788.
And so the anti-federalist issue with the bank is primarily one having to do with how do we interpret the Constitution. Do we have a strict construction of the Constitution, and if we're not allowed to do it, we're not going to do it? So therefore the bank was wrong. It was an overreaching of power, the beginning of this erosion of individual rights and liberties. Or was it, as the Federalists believe, something that was appropriate for Congress to establish because they have the power to tax, they have the power to regulate trade. And in order to do that, you need to have some sort of banking structure, some sort of financial system. And the bank was a sensible way to implement that.
Hamilton responded with a memorandum, thousands of words long, one of the most brilliant documents in all of American constitutional reasoning, explaining that the implied powers of the federal government to carry out the duties that the Constitution imposed on it allowed for the creation of the national bank.
Jefferson was certainly disappointed that Washington came down on Hamilton's side with respect to the national bank, as he was with several other areas where Washington ultimately approved of Hamilton's proposals. There's a fundamental difference, I think, in Washington's and Jefferson's viewpoints in this area, where Washington, I think, with painful memories of his inability to get funding for his troops during the Revolution, was very concerned that the government be able to manage an effective financial system. And I think Jefferson, as he said at one point, he's not a friend to energetic government. So he wants to have a government that is not quite so powerful that it can do anything it wants in these areas. I don't think, though, it follows from that Jefferson and Washington have a real major falling out in this area. I think it's a gradual progression over a long period of time, over a number of issues.